CMJ's Epic Quest. 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 CMJ's Epic Quest.
Hey everyone, welcome back to D&J's Epic Quest. My name is Jay Rule, and joining alongside me here is Sister of Cold Nights, as well as
What?
my cat.
Your cat.
My cat is in frame. And remember when we were talking to Maura Lee, we had to give her a Malazan nickname.
Yeah, I forgot about that. You threw me off there pretty good. But
Sorry.
This is Derek Ronis, or Derek. Good to be back. It doesn't matter how long it's been. It always feels like it's been forever since we've talked. So I'm excited to do this again today.
Yeah, I am too, and hopefully it'll be a good episode with a good chapter.
I think so.
Yeah, I think so too. I guess, how have you been, man?
Good. Yesterday was a pretty long day. Went up to Duluth for basically a few hours. Probably spent more time driving. Well, we did spend more time driving than the amount of time we were actually up there. And then got home and put in a Ring doorbell, which actually wasn't too bad to do. We've had a lot of break-ins in cars in our neighborhood, and we live in a pretty small town, so I don't know if it's just like kids fucking around or what, but a lot of them have been on our street or the adjacent street to us. So we're like, well, our driveway is also tore up right now because the city's redoing like our curb, so we can't park in our garage. We're like, well, we better probably feel a little more secure if we have a camera, So did that. That's about it.
Makes sense. Are they pretty expensive?
My wife found it, like Target had them on sale. It was normally like $100, and she got it for like half of that. It was like $50.
That's not bad. I haven't heard
it's not like the newest, most fancy one, but I mean, it's still pretty fancy, I guess.
Gotcha. I haven't heard good things about their Wi-Fi security. I don't know if they've changed that or not, but apparently it was one of those things where like they were easily hacked, so people could like watch your doorbell.
Oh, well, go ahead and watch it. You're not really going to see anything. I guess we had a bird set it off this morning. It landed on the railing of the deck, and so it went off. So, I mean, if that's your thing, go ahead, I guess. But
True.
What about you? What have you been up to?
Not a whole lot. Editing this last Malazan podcast. Yeah, did some cleaning yesterday. Nothing terribly exciting to talk about.
Dad life.
Dad life, for sure. Yeah. But yeah, I suppose we can get started, right?
I think so. Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess before we get started in today's episode, we'd like to take a moment to thank and recognize Silverstone's Books. Please check out their website at silverstonesbooks.com or drop by their storefront. They do have a very large selection of fantasy, sci-fi, and horror books, with many of those books being signed copies for pretty decent prices. The store also carries a large number of indie authors, so help us help them in supporting those self-published authors. They've also been generous enough to give us a promo code for 10% off your next order. That code is DJ Quest. Check out their site, pick up a book, save some cash.
I don't think enough people are taking advantage of that, but we'd love it if you did. But this is the, I don't know if this is in camera frame or not. This is the newest book I picked up from Silverstone's, Bastards of Liberty by Matthew Zorich. And it's signed too. And it was like, I guess after shipping, it was like $26. So for signed book, I don't know. I think that's pretty good. I know Jan's read this book, and the author's working on the second one now. I think he's almost done with it. So, but check out their website, and I'm sure they'll have something you'd like.
Sweet.
Our patrons, in order of subscription, as always, we have Jan the Picker, Luciana Etrigan, Ryan the Topological, Damien the Rock of Faces, Nate Fiddle Me This, Shield Anvil Dylan, Calvin He Who Witnessed, Livia the Malazan Potato, and Aaron Mott Irregular. I'm pretty sure I just found Aaron on Twitter, and now I follow him, so... Unless there's another Aaron with the same last name out there. I got kind of excited about that. So, Aaron, hopefully you were excited too. Before we get started in the chapter beyond that, I wanted to just talk about something that you sent me, Justin. We got a review, I don't know, a couple weeks ago now. And I'm honestly very appreciative of this review. This person gave us 3 out of 5 stars, which I'm not upset about in any means. I would rather get an honest rating than, I guess, pander for like, oh, give us 5 stars. I don't think that's the type of people either of us are, but I wanted to just read this. It's a little bit of a longer review and just kind of talk about it quick. But so here it goes. It says, first, these guys are achieving what they set out to do. Have fun while reading a series that they are interested in. By doing 1 chapter a week, they can focus in a bit deeper. Early on, I got the feeling that one of them was not as into it as the other, but then it got better. And I guess I don't know which one of us this person thought that was. Thinking about it, I feel like maybe it was me, just because in the beginning, I was probably definitely a little self-conscious as I was recording on my phone to your computer. Didn't have the equipment, didn't really know, neither of us really knew what we were doing. But I think the confidence has come a long way since then. Continuing on here. Said, my complaints, which might have gotten better since the first book, I quit after about 20 episodes, are little things that might not annoy you, but they built up over time for me. 1, their humor can get a little too adolescent at times. I hang around middle school kids all day and I need a break. 2, the episodes are long. I found myself fast forwarding through the first 5 to 10 minutes because I'm not that interested in their personal lives. 3, they mispronounce a lot of words. Example, belfry, which apparently we pronounced as Belfry for a while. And it was pointed out that we said it at least 10 times wrong in one episode. They do a good job of summarizing and theorizing as they read. And if you don't mind their humor or their pronunciation issues, I think you will like them, just not for me. Plus, I would be reading 1 to 2 chapters a day, and they spend 2 hours on each chapter. So if you ever come back, the person that left this review, I want you to know I do appreciate the feedback that was given to us. It was a well thought out review, and it gave us a chance to, I guess, kind of reflect and even, I guess, do our own like market research, so to speak. And the feedback that we've gotten from others in kind of using this review as a template is that the majority of people do like the stuff that we're doing. And, this person, like they said, we're not their thing. Again, totally cool. Again, if you come back and you listen to an episode, if you haven't already, I would definitely suggest Podcast of the Fallen. Nate is one of our patrons, and it's his podcast with his buddy. They cover a few episodes a chapter and are pretty consistent with their episode length. So again, I don't want to like vilify this person or anything, but I don't think we've gotten a review in a while, and that's probably the most like negative one that we've got, when I really don't even think it's that bad. We just weren't their cup of tea. So again, maybe you'll check out some episodes later on. I think we've improved on all the areas you pointed out. And yeah, words, is probably the one that will probably slip up on the most. It's fantasy books. Like, you got to figure out the words sometimes. So that's what all I have to say on that.
Well, and also, I can totally understand the adolescent humor. I feel like it's digressed since the first book, and that's purely because I think in the first book, we didn't really, we kind of had a complexity of things going on, and that was we were first-time podcasters. We were first-time newbies to the Malazan Book of the Fallen, and while we were still pretty young yet in this world, I feel like our confidence is much stronger than it was in Gardens of the Moon. So I feel like that humor is kind of like a replacement for the fact that like we didn't know exactly what we were talking about.
Yeah, and I'm sure, we'll probably make dick jokes and poop jokes and stuff like from time to time, because that's just kind of how we are from time to time. So I don't know that those will ever fully go away, but yeah, I think we've grown a lot.
Right. And again, going back to your reflection, it really made me think about why it is that we're doing this. And I know I said it a lot in the first season of our podcast, but like we really want this to be kind of a companion guide. So yes, it's lengthy, but we're really catering to those that are lost, don't understand, because they can put themselves or we can put themselves in their shoes and just kind of like, hey, no, it's okay. Like, just keep going. Like, eventually this gets better. Eventually you understand. And to be able to share in those experiences with us, I think helps. And being able to take someone who hasn't read the series before as we're going through it and digest it the way that we're digesting it, I think helps.
Yeah, and that's not to say we're not going to get lost on things too, or we're going to get a ton of stuff wrong. Because we're reading this and then coming up with thoughts and ideas and really just shooting from the hip on a lot of this. Like, I'm sure people who have read the series and are listening to us, well, I know Jan laughs at it, like just the shit that we come up with, like, and what we think. He's probably like, yep, you guys are so wrong. It's hilarious. But that's kind of the shtick, like that's kind of what we're going for. At the end of the day, we're just having fun reading the book series, and it might get long, but we just, those long episodes, we have a lot to say, a lot to talk about. It's just how.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that's, I guess, my spiel there. I would love to get more reviews. I appreciate the honesty. I don't have any hurt feelings about it. I want the honest feedback. I don't, don't give us 5 stars unless you think we deserve it. So That's all I'll say there.
All right. Well, should we read the epigraph for this paragraph or for this chapter?
Yeah, it was a pretty long one again, or longer anyways.
Yeah. All right. So this is chapter 15 of Malazan's Memory of Ice. And the epigraph here is, in my dreams, I come face to face with the myriad reflections of myself, all unknown and passing strange. They speak unending in language not my own, and walk with companions I have never met, in places my steps have never gone. In my dreams, I walk worlds where forests crowd my knees, and half the sky is walled ice. Dun herds flow like mud, vast floods tusked and horned surging over the plain. And lo, they are my memories, the migrations of my soul. In the time before night, Dararens of the Rivi.
Yeah, I'm sure we butchered that word. I don't know how the hell to say that either.
Yeah.
Dararians? I don't know. Sure, something. Yeah, I don't know. It feels like that hit some notes with the Mhybe to me.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. The Mhybe, I feel like, is a central theme in this particular chapter.
Yeah. Even though she didn't have a ton of, she had some page time, but not a ton. But yeah, are you ready to kick this chapter off here?
Yeah, I will go grab my popcorn. 1 second.
Yeah, this first section felt like it was half the chapter, basically. So
yep.
Settle in. I wrote a lot of words. But yeah, this section was like, 12 pages, something like that, out of the chapter?
I think so.
Well, we have 14 total document pages, so I slimmed it down, but there's still quite a bit. Whiskey Jack's horse crested the hill and continued on its crossing of the flat-top mesa. Once he got to the far edge, he slowed his horse. Below him, in the dried-up riverbed, were 2 Second Army scouts on horseback, with a dozen Rivi on foot in front of them. They were inspecting a field of huge bones. Whiskey Jack eyed the large bones among them, and he saw scattered iron blades and oddly shaped armor. One of the scouts told Whiskey Jack that he couldn't quite make out what the Rivi were talking about. He figured it was probably 10 demons, and whatever ripped them apart was nasty. Whiskey Jack nodded and told the scouts to keep an eye out. Whiskey Jack approached the Rivi, who were jabbering away. Big dead wolves? No blood? Barrow stench? Obsidian? Far south? Southwest or far north? If it is of this world, it is of Morn. Demons are here, in this world, yet in the air, ice stench, tundra wind, the wake of the wolves. Whiskey Jack interrupted their babbling and told them to report to him. They looked at him silently, and Whiskey Jack asked who commanded them. One of them said it could speak Daru, so he would speak for them. The Rivi explained that the undead demons had come from the southwest, like they were being driven like Behedron, being hunted. Whiskey Jack broke in and asked if it was the big dead wolves. The Rivi said yes, and they were twice as big as the native wolves on the plain. When the Rivi shouldermen or women have their farthest dreams, the wolves are seen, never close, but always running, all ghostly, except the one who leads, who seems of the flesh and has life in its eyes. This is a great honor to see, for there is joy in their running. Whiskey Jack said, except these wolves no longer run in the dreams of the witches and the warlocks, and this was far more deadly. The Rivy replied that he said they were like the wolves in the dreams, not that they were the wolves in the dream. They drove them into this trap and destroyed them. The demons are from the barrows in the south, while the wolves are from the dust in the north of the winds of winter. Whiskey Jack thanked the Rivy for their news. 3 more riders approached: Corlat, Silver Fox, and Krupp, who was the last in line coming down the rocky slope, but his mule willed its way past the other 2 and arrived to Whiskey Jack first. When Corlat and Silver Fox arrived, he asked what took them so long. Whiskey Jack thought that Silver Fox's fur coat became her, but she could not compare to Corlat. Trying not to think of nights long past, Whiskey Jack said the Rivy had come across the site of a battle. Corlat confirmed the corpses were Kachin Shamal, and they were Kell hunters. Silver Fox announced that it was the Tlant Eye who had fought against them, and they were why she had come. Whiskey Jack did not understand. Silver Fox said she needed to see for herself. They were drawing close to the besieged city and her to the destiny she was born for. Convergence, the plague of this world, and that the Tlant Eye were gifts. Krupp said he got shivers when she named them, and rambled on with some flowery language that Whiskey Jack did not understand, for he was a simpler soldier. Whiskey Jack looked around and noticed everyone was alert. It made the hair on the back of his neck stand on edge. Corlat asked what was coming. Krupp replied that it was the gift. As he looked to Silver Fox, dust swirled on all sides. The Tlant Eye formed, thousands of them. Silver Fox only smiled and said they were her escort. Whiskey Jack thought that now Silver Fox may not need them, and she would be free to do whatever she wanted. He continued thinking, what if Callor was right? What if they missed their chance, then dismissed the thought as they had shown faith in her when it mattered most? When she was at her weakest, and Tattersail wouldn't forget that. She was so like, yet not, Nightchill, dismembered by betrayal. Is it Taishren that her remnant soul hates? Or the Malazan Empire and every child of its blood? Or did she seek vengeance on Rake, Brood, the Barghast, and Rivy? Krupp said it was a lovely escort, terrifying to her enemies and comforting to her loyal friends. Krupp was impressed beyond words at the good pups. Corlat said she would take her leave and report to her leaders. Silver Fox asked Corlat how the Mhybe was. Corlat said she could no longer walk and weakens by the day. Perhaps a visit would give her strength. Silver Fox said there was no need and asked who attended her. It was Krupp's good buddies, Call and Aurelio, and that she was safe enough. Silver Fox said the conditions were about to get tense. Whiskey Jack thought it was already tense and that Callor haunts her like a vulture. He was surprised she was able to get this far away from him, unless he was hiding over the next hill. Corlat asked Silver Fox if she wanted something from her. Silver Fox asked for the Teist Andy guards to watch her mother. Corlat said she should be able to share some of her guardians for that purpose. Silver Fox said that was not an option, as the Mhybe would not let them near her. Maybe I should have said Tlant Eye there. I feel like I didn't word that very well. She needs to keep the Tlant Eye out of her sight. Though she may look weak and frail, she has the ability to drive the eye away. Corlat said it would be done, and Silver Fox directed her attention back to Whiskey Jack. She silently studied him for a moment before asking Krupp if he was satisfied. Krupp said he was satisfied and that he thought she would be able to hold on. He has faith enough for the both of them. Silver Fox said she leaned heavily on him for this. And Krupp replied that his legs were stone pillars, and he hardly noticed her light touch. Krupp said the others were approaching, and what would she let them see? She said nothing, and the eye disappeared. Whiskey Jack grunted and wished that Quickben were here, as there were too many secrets between the camps. He wished he knew what was happening with the bridge burners in Paran. Did they succeed, or were they all dead? He got back on his horse and caught up with the rest of the group. Callor was apart from the others on his horse. Whiskey Jack studied him for a moment before looking to the others. Brood and Dujek, Herlashel and Artanthos, and the Trigali Trade Guild merchant, Mage, Horatus, and then Corlat. Dujek said Corlat explained what the scouts had found, and that if he had anything else to add. Whiskey Jack said no, that the Teist Andy had more knowledge about the Kachin Shamal than they did. Below it was just a mess of bones. He would not have been able to identify them, and the Rivy believed they are dead. Callor spoke up, saying that it was fortunate that he was here, as he knew quite a bit about the creatures. And barring Corlat, he was feeling unusually loquacious. Callor went on to explain the remnants of the Kachin Shamal culture could be found on basically every continent. In fact, in his old empire on Jakaruku, their strange mechanisms filled pits and holes in the earth. Whenever they dug below the surface, they would find them. Barrels were found, and scholars examined them carefully and closely. Did they want to know what was found, or was he merely boring them? Caladan Brood told him to continue. Caller said he appreciated the wisdom he displayed. The beasts appeared to be reptilian and capable of breeding for their own specific talents. For example, the Kell hunters were warriors, and unless he missed his mark, that's what was below in the pile of bones. Somehow they had swords melded to their very bones instead of hands. The Kachain Shemal were matriarchal, similar to a hive of bees. They had their queen, the mother to all. Within their matron resided the power of her entire family, power that would make the gods of today weak, power to keep the elder gods out of this world, and if not for their self-destruction, they would be ruling the world today. Corlat said self-destruction was an interesting detail and wanted more information on that. They had found records that first needed to be deciphered. What they learned was that each matron ruled over the equivalent of a modern city. They had all gathered, but it was not known what they wanted, as they had already possessed vast power. They resurrected an ancient breed known as the Short Tails. They were called this because they had short, stubby tails, leaving them upright and not as fast as the others. They also would not submit to the matrons, and a civil war soon followed. The sorcery unleashed was apocalyptic, and if you wanted to see its aftermath, one would only need to go to Morn. Corlat said it was the rent. Caller smiled and said the matron sought to harness the power of a gate, but not a common Warren's gate. She chose the gate that led to the realm of chaos. It was insane for her to think that she could assert order upon such a thing. Caller had a laugh and said perhaps there was a lesson or two in that tale. Brood wanted to bring the conversation back to the present. The undead Kell hunters. What the fuck were they doing here? Silver Fox said they were being used. All eyes looked to her. Dujek said he didn't like how that sounded. Silver Fox continued, saying they were being used by the Panian Seer. Caller snapped that was impossible. Only a Kachain Shemal matron could control Kell hunters. Even the undead. Corlat said it looked like they had more than one enemy. Dujek formed a question, asking if the Panian Seer had an ally. There had not even been so much as a hint. Silver Fox said the proof was there before them. Caller spoke, saying the matron could not create more of her own kind without the seed of a living male. So everyone they kill is one less they have to deal with. Brood said that was an easily swallowed revelation. Brood said there was another truth before them regarding the Kell hunters' destruction. Someone else was doing it for them. Silver Fox smiled and reminded them that she had told them before they would need her help. Caller snarled, calling Silver Fox a bitch, and asked why the Talan Imes would concern themselves with the Kachain Shemal. Weren't the Jaghut their enemies? Why give your undead followers a new enemy? Why have the Talan Imes and her join this war? Silver Fox rested her hands on her stomach as Tattersail would have, and she said they had joined to nothing. Brood asked if she denied that it was her Imes who destroyed the Kell hunters. She answered with her own question, asking if any of them had ever wondered why the Imes warred with the Jaghut. Dujek said an explanation would help them understand. Silver Fox nodded and said that when the first Imes emerged, they were forced to live in the shadow of the Jaghut. Tolerated and ignored, but only in small numbers. They were pushed to the poorest lands. Soon the tyrants rose among the Jaghut, who took pleasure in enslaving them and forcing them into a living hell. This repeated for generation and generation. The Imes knew no freedom. This was a hard lesson to learn. They were an intelligent being in this world. There are intelligent beings in this world who exploit the virtues of others. Their kindness and compassion exploited and mocked. How many Imes tribes discovered their gods were actually Jaghut tyrants hidden behind friendly masks? Tyrants who manipulated them with faith as a weapon. The rebellion was inevitable and devastating for the Imes. They were weaker and not even really sure what they were after or what freedom would even look like if they could achieve it. But they could not and would not relent. Calor sneered and said there were only a handful of tyrants. Silver Fox agreed and said that a handful was too many. They found allies among the Jaghut. That found what the tyrants were doing unimaginable. But now they carried the scars of mistrust and betrayal. In the name of future Imes generations, all of the Jaghut must die. None could be left alive to produce children. No new tyrants could be allowed to rise. Corlat asked how this related to the Kachain Shemal. Silver Fox continued. Before the Jaghut ruled, the Kachain Shemal ruled. The first Jaghut were to the Kachain Shemal as the first Imes were to the Jaghut. In each species is born the seeds of domination. The Imes wars with the Jaghut destroyed them as a living people, as a vibrant and evolving culture. They paid that price so that those who came after could enjoy freedom. It was their eternal sacrifice. And now they take it upon themselves to destroy an all-devouring empire, maybe even giving up their lives for people they don't know, people they will never know, on lands they will never set foot upon. So what is there really to understand about the IMS? What still escapes their understanding? Destroy the Panian Domain. It must be done. For her and her IMS, they seek to destroy what is behind the Panian Seer, and that threat is the Kachane Shamal. A matron lives, flesh and blood, and should she find a flesh and blood male of her kind, the tyranny of the Jaghut will be nothing compared to that of the Kachane Shamal. This will be their sacrifice. Only the wind filled the silence that followed her words. Brood turned to Calor and asked why he thought she was an abomination. Calor snapped that she lied. The whole war was meaningless. It was simply a feint. This surprised Dujek and asked, "A feint? By who?" Calor made no reply. Horatus cleared her throat and said she believed Silver Fox was telling the truth as much as she was able. But the feint? Consider the infection in the Warrens, as the focus seems to emanate from the Panian Domain, and that the poison's taint is that of the Warren of Chaos. Why would a matron with a vast wellspring of sorcery seek to destroy the very conduits of its power? If she was present when Morn was destroyed and the rent was created, why would she try and harness chaos again? Ambition or foolishness? As Horatus's words sunk into Whiskey Jack, he realized that there was indeed another enemy. Barring Dujek and his own, the revelation is not as surprising as it should be. They caught a hint, but failed to make the connection. He thought he'd best avoid Brood, Corlat, Calor, and even Krupp if he were to join a game of bones. Whiskey Jack continued to Silver Fox, saying that she had spun a tale of sympathy from their hearts through it. It seems the effort was misdirected. If there was a third hand manipulating them and the Panian Seer, will she focus her efforts there? Silver Fox simply said no. Whiskey Jack, surprised, asked why. Silver Fox told him that they asked too much of them. This terrified Whiskey Jack, and he turned to Dujek, who wore the same expression. He thought they were going to their deaths. It was an unseen enemy, but one they had known about for a long time, and one that makes the IMS recoil. Krupp spoke up, speaking in his usual goofy manner, saying not to worry about anything. They could sleep well at night knowing he put himself in the way of this formidable enemy. Brood yelled, wondering what the fuck he was talking about. Was Krupp claiming to stand in the way of the crippled god? Brood wanted proof, or he would not be responsible for his next actions. Silver Fox said she wouldn't do that if she were him. Showing his teeth, Brood asked if she extended her protection to that of that fat toad, Krupp. Silver Fox asked Krupp if he had ever made such a request, and he said that was absurd, though he kept egging Brood on, saying he would threaten Krupp of Darujistan, demand an explanation, fondling his hammer. Brood yelled again, demanding silence. Krupp said he defied all threats. Suddenly, Brood's hammer was in his hand, flying in an arc that landed nearly at Krupp's feet. The detonation sent everyone and everything flying. The ground quickly rose up to meet Whiskey Jack, and it hit him like a fist when he landed. As things settled, he could see a new mountain range rising. To the north, there was a fissure in the earth that seemed almost depthless as it stretched across the land. He saw Caladan Brood standing with his hammer hanging in his hands, motionless. Before Brood, on an island of his own, was Krupp, brushing the dirt from his clothes. Whiskey Jack held back a laugh, knowing it would not help the situation, but he thought they had seen Brood's wrath, and Krupp had stood it down, proof that he was not as he appeared to be. He heard a cry. It was Corlat. They looked to the north, and the fissure was filling with blood, fouled and rotten blood. Burn sleeps, the sleep of the dying, the poisoned. This was the day's most terrible revelation. Diseased, the hidden hand of the crippled god. That was quite a bit.
Good job, dude. That was a very lengthy section for sure.
Yes, it was. And I reread this chapter this morning, and I think I got a few different things out of it today than I did the first time, but I can talk about that stuff as I get to it. But
yeah,
for a long section like this, I didn't have a ton of talking points. My first one here, and some of this, we'll see how much I even remember of what I was thinking at the time when I wrote this, but there's this sentence that says, when the Rivi shouldermen or women have their furthest dreams, the wolves are seen, never close, but always running, all ghostly except for the one who leads, who seems of the flesh and has life in his eyes. So I don't know what you think, but I feel like this must be them looking back at their past or something and like Do you think that this fleshy one is a prophecy for the second gathering or something along those lines?
Yeah, I think that it's Silver Fox. It's
Okay. I guess I didn't really make that connection, but
well, because
it makes
like,
sense.
and Silver Fox kind of goes on to explain it in the section where she's explaining the Talani Mass and the Jaghut had enslaved the Talani Mass, and the Kachin Chamal had enslaved the Jaghut, kind of like the whole dominion over another species, so to speak. So the first gathering, right, from what we understand, was an extermination of the Jaghut. This was their vengeance, so to speak, against the Jaghut for causing generational trauma, if you could call it that.
Sure.
Now that there is a need for a second gathering, because we know that the Kachin, Chamal, and the Panian Doman and the Crippled God are all kind of in bed together, so to speak. So this is the reason for the second gather, is to take care of the Kachin Chamal so that they don't enslave, dominate a culture, right? Because, and again, if I'm wrong, and I don't remember where we got this, but somehow it's in my head that the people nowadays that are like human, quote unquote, right, are descendants from the Talani Mass, right?
I feel like that's familiar, yes.
Okay. So from what I'm
I
getting,
don't remember exactly when and where. I feel like it was somewhere in Dead House Gates, but I don't, I guess, remember the certain circumstances where we read that or.
Yeah. Okay. So if my understanding is that what the Talani Mass did allowed their descendants to thrive. They pretty much sacrificed themselves to take out the Jaghut so that their descendants could thrive.
Right. Yeah. It seems like a worthwhile endeavor.
So yeah, I think that what's happening in this particular comment is that when the Rivi shoulder men or women have the farthest dreams, that these wolves are seen, never close, but always running. But the one that leads them is of flesh and has life in its eyes. So I think that that's kind of a connection between Silver Fox and her newfound protectors.
I think that makes sense. My next thought, Silver Fox asking Krupp if he was satisfied. I mean, what do you think? They must be working on something together. Do you think it's just protecting the Mhybe, or think there's other motivations there?
I don't know. I'm definitely betwixt each scenario because there are things throughout this chapter that suggest one or the other, if that makes any sense. Like, there's things that suggest that maybe there's some malice towards the Mhybe, but there are also some other things that suggest there's some compassion for the Mhybe, even though not as all as it seems.
Right.
But I will agree that they're definitely up to something. What specifically, I'm unsure of at this point in time.
Yeah, I don't know either. I don't have any thoughts. That's why I wanted to pick your brain on it. So I think this was maybe just, I don't know if we've talked about this before, but talking, Calor's talking about how the matron chose the realm of chaos. I was wondering, or I'm not remembering if this has been discussed before, but is a realm different from a warren, or are they just interchangeable terms?
I don't know, actually. I think that they are interchangeable because, like, in order to access the warren, you have to go through a gate. So I think realm and warren are interchangeable, but please, Malazan community, feel free to correct us.
I feel like it's pretty rare when I ask a question and I don't have the answer to it, but I've gotten an I don't know out of you twice in a row here. It's pretty rare.
Yeah, well, I don't know everything. I mean, I loved this section. It's probably my favorite in the whole chapter just because there's so much history. And I almost kind of feel like we may not be able to do the section justice because, unfortunately, we have to move on. I feel like there's so many talking points, so many things that have been revealed as far as...
the whole, Calor's, history lesson was pretty cool.
Yes, it was pretty cool.
Wasn't your theory that the matron was a Jaghut, the sister?
No, I think Anister's mother is the Jaghut sister.
Okay. I couldn't remember exactly what it was, but I guess in either case, I think it seems like, I don't know, how the Jaghut are behind, these Kachin Chamal, but it seems somehow they're in bed together too. I don't know exactly what's going on.
Sure. I mean, when Kaller is kind of explaining the Kachain Shamal, and he talks about the mechanisms that could be found all over his native land of Jakaraku, right? Which we know is essentially the Imperial Warden at this point. And you remember in Dead House Gates when Kalam and is it Manala, his love, so to speak, were walking through the Imperial Warren trying to get I don't even remember now. Where were they trying to get to? And they run across a pit that had a mechanism in it, some type of time-related mechanism. And that immediately made me think of Icarium. Is it possible that Icarium is half Kachain Shamal, half Jaghut? Because if you think about it, right, they're basically saying that the Kachain Shamal came potentially first. That's kind of undetermined, but at this point, they came before the Jaghut, right? And from what we know about what this history lesson is telling us, what Silver Fox is telling us is that the Kachain Shamal essentially
they're everywhere.
The Jaghut, right? So is it possible that there were some moments of, and we know that Icarium is really, really old, right? So is it potential that he's half Jaghut, half Kachain Shamal? Because he is a maker of time-related mechanisms, right? Which is what Kaller is saying, kind of alluding to.
I don't know. I guess I'm not sure on the Icarium part of it. Could be, but I don't know.
Yeah, that's just what it made me think of.
Sure.
But I think, so going back to your matron comment, I think that what happened with the Jaghut brother, right, is we know that he essentially became so foul that the matron didn't want him anymore. So with this explanation about the whole matron needing a male counterpart, I think that what ended up happening is just through the matron's embrace, the child Jaghut ended up becoming able to reproduce with her. He's kind of like a half male Kachain Shamal. I don't know. I could be wrong on that, but that's my theory as far as that part goes.
Gotcha. Well, I'm sure more will be revealed as we go. Silver Fox, she's given her, I guess, half of this history lesson, saying why the Talan did what they did. And she gets done talking, and there's a line that says, "Only the wind filled the silence that followed her words." And I just thought that was a really cool line. And that whole explanation was really cool.
Oh, I thought so too, for sure. It's just it's ominous, right? Because it sets the scene as everybody's just imagine their jaw has dropped. They haven't heard this version before, or whatever the case is. It's really about all what hasn't been said, and everybody just kind of seems to be awestruck.
Yeah.
But then of course Kaller is just no, you're lying, you bitch.
Yeah, and this was one of the things I kind of was thinking about this when I read the chapter today. Kaller saying that she lied and this whole war was meaningless. It's just a feint. And then she doesn't, Kaller doesn't say anything. When Dujek asked a feint by who, he just shuts his mouth. And I think it's him. It's just like a distraction so that he can, plot his stab in the back or whatever is kind of what I feel like.
Yeah, but then why would he say anything at all about it being a feint? I think it's just because he doesn't want to reveal that he knows that the crippled god is behind the feint, right? The crippled god is trying to distract these people, right? So that he can do what he wants undisturbed.
It just seems like he's tired of he's not buying what she's saying. And I think he's just irritated with the bullshit spewing out of her mouth.
Could be. Yeah. I really like a lot in this section. I know that there's a moment earlier on where Whiskey Jack is kind of oh shit, he's doubting where they are because he hasn't heard from Paran. Are they potentially dead? Silver Fox doesn't even need us anymore because she's got her own escort, so to speak. He's just what the hell are we doing? And just that confusion must be terrifying. Because what do you do?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't know if I was missing a connection on something, and maybe you can explain it here, but, Heratus talks and, says, yeah, there is another enemy, but Whiskey Jack thought that they weren't as surprised as they should be. And then he thinks that they'd caught a hint but failed to make the connection. I don't know that I'm making the connection. Or maybe I'm just overcomplicating things in my head. I don't know.
I think that the connection is that from the Panian Domain, the matron is very much alive, and it kind of seems like they're seeking to harness the power of the Warren of Chaos, even though they had previously failed in doing so. So maybe it's just kind of like for the matron and the Kachain Jamal is a task that they weren't unable to fill, but now they have a second chance to do so.
Okay. All right.
But here's your third one. I'm not really quite sure either. I'm not sure what exactly that connection is. I feel like a lot of the information in the section is kind of leveling the playing field, but at the same time, it begs more questions. Like we get answers, right, to the Kachain Jamal. We understand what they were and what they were doing, and they pretty much obliterated themselves by unleashing or reanimating some long dead ancestor. You know what I mean? The short tails. The short tails don't want anything to do with the Kachain Jamal. They have their own prerogative, it seems, and so thus they essentially killed themselves. They had that's how they were taken out. So at least that's what this is insinuating. Whether that's true or not, I guess I'm sure more information will be revealed. But like, there's a lot of these moments in here where like small little questions that we've had up until this point get answered. The reason why the Talan Emas and the Talan Eye are protecting or eliminating the Kel Hunters is because of they want to be preventative in making sure that the Kachain Jamal don't rise again. And I know that in last episode, chapter 14, we had a question. We're like, well, why is she doing this?
Sure. Sorry, I don't know what to say right now.
No, it's fine.
That's kind of all I had for like thoughts that I jotted down, but a couple other things. I don't know about you, but when we get, the short tails, immediately my mind went to The Land Before Time. I don't know if you felt the same way or not.
Oh, with Ducky's character?
Well, I know that there wasn't I don't think there was any called short tails in there, but it just made me think of, long neck and three horn.
Oh, sure. Gotcha. Well, I mean, do you think that it's insinuating that the Kachain Jamal are like ancient reptiles, but the ancestors prior to that are dinosaurs? Do you think that that's kind of what
I guess I really hadn't thought about that.
Then I'm wondering if Mr. Erickson is in the belief that dinosaurs didn't evolve into birds.
That he doesn't think that?
Yeah. I mean, it's fantasy. You could make up whatever you really want to, but, being that he was an archaeologist, right? I mean, he's got to have some pretty good theories about dinosaurs. I'm sure that would be pretty interesting to talk to him about if that's something that he actually cares about as far as archaeology. I'm sure there's a plethora of different kind of subgroups of archaeology that one could be passionate about,
Sure. Yeah, there probably is. What did you think of Brood just, hammer smashing Krupp?
I thought it was funny that, I thought it was funny that I guess to me it came so fast. I'm like, Brood really has a short temper. I feel like what Krupp did really wasn't that bad. I mean, he's done that to other people a million times, and Brood just happened to be the one that can wake up Burn, right?
Yeah, it was fast, and it was surprising how quick he got under his skin, but it worked.
Mm-hmm. Well, do you think that? I mean, obviously, this was strategic by Krupp. Krupp knew that he had to piss off Brood, because they needed Burn to be awake, right? The hammer wakes up the sleeping goddess, right? That's your understanding as well?
I guess I don't know that I thought about it in that sort of term, I guess.
I can't remember where in this book, but I feel like it was kind of after Quick Ben discovered about Burn and the poison, and even Rake and Brood's conversation back in chapter 5 about, the sleeping goddess and how they had chained the crippled god to her, and the hammer was the only thing that would wake her up, or she's dreaming, having hallucinations. So I guess again, a lot of the information is just setting the plane, but begging more questions at the same time. Like, we know that when Brood is the only one that can wake up the sleeping goddess with a strike of his hammer on the earth. So
you think she's coming awake then? Maybe
think
it's maybe
so.
it's a slow process, but
I definitely think so. But I guess when it comes to medical things, I am not any wiser. But I feel like there's something that happens to your body, and if you like relieve the pressure, it like helps or something like that. So I think that is kind of Krup's goal here, is to relieve the pressure, right? So we see these fissures open, and we see the like poisoned blood of Burn kind of seep up through. So I'm wondering if that will help cleanse the Warrens a little bit. Like,
interesting thought.
it's not daunting to use, which is a good thing. Maybe that's just something that Krupp is aware of and no one else is. I don't know. I'm not again, I don't have any information on it. I'm just kind of going off of thoughts and speculations.
I think that seems plausible. So you think like her waking up will help her like fend off the crippled god or something?
Right. Like, she can take actions of her own to protect herself because she's not sleeping anymore. Why you wouldn't want to do that before, I'm not exactly sure. But again, I would imagine that the weather and earthquakes and earth-related things are probably going to start getting worse. I think that's kind of the consequence of waking up Burn, is that the cataclysmic nature or natural events are going to start occurring more frequently.
We'll have to see if that plays out. That'd be interesting.
I mean, there's a huge fucking mountain that just popped out of nowhere,
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
And they kind of insinuated that it was like her spine, So like her hunching up, getting up. I don't even know. I don't know. These are just thoughts as I'm thinking about it.
Well, maybe we'll see some of that stuff going forward here.
Yeah. But
I don't think I had anything else unless you wanted to talk about anything else here.
I feel like we could have a whole episode if we really wanted to pick out all of the cool things that happened in this section. But again, we're covering a chapter, not a section. So,
yeah, we'd never finish if we were just going to section.
But yeah, Malazan community and followers, like, I'd be happy to strike up a conversation with you about this particular section. And any insight you could share would be awesome. But I'm ready to move on if you are.
Yeah, let's go for it.
All right. The Mhybe awoke to Rivi shouting in alarm. The wagon rocked and thunder shook the ground. She winced as she was tossed around the wagon. She would not cry out. She only wanted to hide. The rumbling stopped, and she heard footsteps rushing by the wagon. She thought to herself that this ruin was a mercy, an end to her pain. In her dreams, she was young once more, but these dreams held no joy. Strangers walked this Chandra that she now found herself occupying. When these strangers approached, she would run and hide. She did not know what these strangers wanted, but it was clear to her they were tracking her. She had been saved by the abyss, by the dragon. She thought to herself as to what end, leaving her in a place where she was hunted and pursued. Time had passed, and the rumbles grew further apart. The wagon rocked once more, but this time it was because Call and Murillo had entered. Call said that it wasn't a surprise that she had awakened. The Mhybe told them to leave her alone. She thought to herself that it was so cold. Murillo asked Call what had happened up there. Call explained the Brood had lost his temper. Murillo wonders if it was Calor. Call tells him to make another guess. Murillo groaned Krupp's name as it came out of his mouth. Call said that it's no surprise, and Krupp had a way of pissing people off. However, not all had the ability to shatter the world in half. Murillo asked if Krupp had managed to get himself killed. Call explained that Krupp had managed to come out unscathed. No one else was injured either, but Brood almost got his head kicked in by Krupp's mule. They go on to talk about Krupp's mule a bit more before Murillo comments on the range of mountains as being the biggest he's ever seen. Call says that it is a sight to be seen, but it's not worth thinking about. The Mhybe couldn't help thinking at that moment that nothing was worth thinking about. She thinks about her daughter and the two women and the one man's soul crowding within her. She finds herself thinking about her youth and how she was drawn into a dream, and then that dream was made real. But what of her daughter? What qualities does she hold of her mother? She told herself that Silver Fox holds nothing. No reasons to see and visit her. She has been discarded and her purpose is done. Forgotten. A Mhybe. Murillo settled his hand on her shoulder and said that he thinks she sleeps once more. Call and Murillo talk about his youth and the choices he had made. He empathizes with the Mhybe once they conclude their conversation. Call points out the copper ornaments she was wearing, and as when she's sleeping, they seem to get brighter and shinier. Murillo said that this was odd, as they kind of seem dull right now. There was a silence, and Murillo said that he wished he could take back his words, as he realized the Mhybe was not sleeping. Inside the Mhybe's head, she questioned this as if it was the truth. They pitied her, but why couldn't they say it to her face? It seemed that their pity was no match to her own. Her thoughts trailed away, and she fell asleep. Inside her dream, she was running. Do you think, and this is maybe just a thought to me that occurred to me as I was reading, do you think that these strangers in these dreams that she has been having are the Jaghut pursuing her? Memories of her ancestors, so to speak?
I don't know. I guess I kind of felt like it was more the Talant Eye for some reason.
That's in the next section. My next section.
I don't know.
Gotcha.
I'll give you that answer.
Gotcha. Yes, because I feel like what's happening, and I think this is where Krupp and Silver Fox are maybe manipulating things here. Obviously, Krupp has given, the Mhybe these copper ornaments, right?
Yep.
So clearly it has to do with her sleeping. Krupp has some type of way of potentially seeing her dreams. And I think that's what's happening is Krupp is telling Silver Fox her dreams, and Silver Fox is intervening when she needs to. Like the whole Abyss thing. I think that remember that I can't remember which chapter it was, where at the end she was saved by the Abyss from the dragon, which she recollects here, but I think the Abyss means death. So I think that Silver Fox saved her mother from death. And now she's just withering away because she's long overdue, right? Like her body is continuing to deteriorate. Like she can't even walk, So I think that she was supposed to die. And Tattersail, Silver Fox, kind of the same at this point that we know of, has saved her mom, even though her mother has no idea.
Yeah, she doesn't. I guess, I don't know. I never thought about it in that way, that she was saving her mom or the Mhybe. I think it makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. So one of the talking points that I have here is kind of Krupp had a way of pissing people off, and not everybody had the ability to shatter the world. I thought this was very subtle comic relief, given that the beginning of the section was pretty heavy, and even now with the Mhybe and how her mood is, right? Like she wants to die. She is just tired of it all. Her daughter doesn't want anything to do with her, won't see her, won't come visit. But I think that that's for a purpose that the Mhybe just doesn't understand, nor us, the readers, at this point.
Yeah, but maybe it's like you said, she's keeping her out of harm's way and everything, or trying to.
Right. Well, and I think that these dreams kind of have to do with like Krupp and Silver Fox are trying to make her mother see a point, like kind of, along the lines of like, you only fear itself, or whatever that quote is, like if you stop running away from what you're afraid of and you face it, then you finally see the truth, type of thing. That's kind of the sense that I'm getting.
The only thing to fear is fear itself. Is that what you're looking for?
Yeah.
Glad I could come through for you there with the quote.
Can we talk about Krupp's mule? Like,
I don't know what to think about that.
I think that it's cruel, just kind of keeping an eye on shit. Because Murillo and Call even talk about how it sleeps when it walks, and it's extremely watchful of everything. So it's either it's a soul taken of some kind, or Cruel is just kind of passively watching his plan unfold. Maybe switching between like Garath and Krupp's mule in some way, shape, or form to kind of keep an eye on how things are going from all perspectives. I'm wrong, but there's something up with his mule. What? I don't know. Those are just my theories.
Yeah, it's fishy for sure.
Yeah.
but I don't really know what to make of it either, or where to, lean what I think might be the case.
Right. And then at this thought that the Mhybe has about no reasons to visit with her, she has been discarded and her purpose is done, forgotten, a Mhybe. And I feel like this is playing off of emotional immaturity a bit. And whether we want to or not, or whether she wants her child to be there or not, she should be trying to create quality moments with her daughter instead of occupying all of her thoughts on death, focusing only on her resentment for the situation, if that makes any sense. Like, I think that, like, I guess in some weird way, if I'm putting myself in the Mhybe's shoes, instead of playing the victim, right? Like, wouldn't you just want to try to create quality moments with the child that you have for as long as you have? But at the same time, I mean, I understand because the Mhybe in mental years is still really young. She's probably 18, 19, 20, young 20s, somewhere in there. And she's on the verge of 20s. Death, like I can understand why she has the mentality that she has because she hasn't gained the wisdom of being a parent for long.
But I mean, the Silver Fox doesn't really want to like spend time around her either, though. So it's.
But I think that's all because of her purpose. I mean, like, why would she ask Corlott in the last section how her mom is doing if she really didn't care?
Well, I'm not saying she doesn't care, but she doesn't. She's probably busy with other shit to spend time and hang out.
Yeah, I don't know. There's definitely something there. Again, we have enough information to speculate, but we don't have the information to conclude.
Yeah.
I also thought it was really dark that we find out the reason why she's called the Mhybe.
Maybe you can explain.
It's because, like, as she's thinking, no reasons to see or visit with her, she's been discarded and her purpose is done, forgotten. And then she goes, a Mhybe, So I kind of feel like all of those thoughts kind of brings a very depressing meaning to her name. Is that she's just like a piece of garbage in a trash can, a Mhybe.
Did she? I guess I don't remember who gave her the name.
That's
Mhybe.
just what she's always been called. Like an ostracized member of a group.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, if that's, I have no idea if Mhybe is a real word in our world. I've never heard it before this book. But yeah, it's like, I think it's like you said. It's almost, it makes sense. Yeah, she's kind of just been pushed aside.
So, I mean, maybe it's a play on words. Maybe it's supposed to be Mhybe, maybe, right? And maybe means perhaps or a possibility.
Right.
Or probability. So you're kind of in this state of not and yes, no and yes.
In between.
Right. Which, I mean, that's kind of how she's feeling. Just in between. Her purpose is done, discarded, She is and she's not.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true.
So, I mean, those are all the thoughts that I had about that section. Yeah, is kind of further perpetuating that something is going on with her dreams, being saved by the abyss, these strangers, tracking her, right? Like these memories of what I'm assuming are Rivi ancestors, kind of going back to the epilogue of this chapter. Or not epilogue, epigraph.
Okay. You had me confused for a moment there. I was like, what? Yeah, I don't know. I keep thinking about how she's kind of been on this, it seems like a roller coaster ride, right? Like, she's, not that she's had really great moments, but she had those low moments where she wanted to die and kill herself. And then she had this realization that, I saw what's after death and it's nothing. And now I don't want that. So she's kind of on the upswing again. And now she's just kind of going back downhill where, she's ready to be done. And I think I can empathize with that. Like if you're dying and in pain,
just get it over.
Do you really want to go through with that? Yeah.
Right.
I know. I don't think I've talked about the show Shameless a few times. You haven't watched that, have you?
No.
Gotcha. Well, if anybody listening has watched Shameless, we just finished the 5th season of Shameless last night, my wife and I, and there's a character in there in that season that maybe could echo some things of the Mhybe in some sense. So I don't know if anybody's watched that and knows what I'm talking about. If you think the same thing, yeah, let us know. Or if you're like, no, not really, that's cool too. But I would definitely say, Justin, you should watch that show because it's quickly becoming one of my favorite shows.
All right.
I almost feel like we could. I was looking for like podcasts on that show, and I found one, but they start like in the middle of the 5th season, and I'm like, damn, like I would love like a podcast just going episode by episode of the show. Like, well, I don't know if I could do that, but it'd be fun. Anyways, you ready for the next section?
Yeah, I'm ready to go.
Okay. I feel like we talked just as long as on your section as we did for mine, and yours was quite a bit shorter there.
Sorry.
No, it's sorry, man. Let's see. Section 3. Dujek chucked his gauntlets against the wall as he entered the tent. While Whiskey Jack filled 2 goblets with ale, Dujek asked what madness this was. Whiskey Jack took a long drink and then asked Dujek which madness he was referring to. Dujek agreed it was a long list. The crippled god? The ugliest legends belong to that broken bastard. Whiskey Jack went on saying that Fisher Kelthath's poem at the chaining. Dujek cut him off, saying he wasn't one for poetry, but he had heard parts of it recited by tavern bards and the like. This wasn't a war he signed up for. Whiskey Jack told him not to fight then. Dujek told him to continue. Whiskey Jack said Brood already knew, so it was safe to assume that Animander Rake also did, and Calor, though he doesn't like the look in his eye. So 2 ascendants and 1 would-be ascendant. The crippled god is too much for people like them, so leave it to the ascendants. Besides, Rake and Brood were both there at the chaining. Dujek said it was their mess then, and Whiskey Jack agreed. Dujek continued by saying they are paying the price for it and might end up paying the ultimate price. He would not see his army used as cannon fodder in that manner. They were marching to destroy the Panian Domain, a mortal empire, so far as they could tell. Whiskey Jack said it seemed like manipulation was happening on both sides. Dujek didn't know if he should be comforted by that and finished his drink, holding out his empty cup. Whiskey Jack refilled it and said they were hardly ones to complain of manipulation. That, and he still had faith. Dujek wanted to know what or who he had faith in. Whiskey Jack alluded to Krupp, and Dujek asked if he had lost his mind. Whiskey Jack told him to look at his own anger as an example. He rages at the sense of being manipulated or used, possibly even deceived. Then, think about how an ascendant like Caladan Brood would feel at being manipulated or used. Enough to shatter his temper? Enough to unsling his hammer and obliterate Krupp? Dujek took a moment before responding. When he spoke, he said Brood took Krupp seriously. Whiskey Jack said Darujistan was their grand failure. Through everything that took place, he had a feeling that someone, somewhere else, was pulling the strings. It wasn't Rake, the Cabal, or Vorkin, but someone so cleverly hidden they were helpless. Then, at the parley, they discovered who was responsible for Tattersail's rebirth as Silver Fox, drawing together threads of Bellerden, Nightchill, and Silver Fox herself. And now it appears an elder god has returned to the mortal realm. And lastly, there were the Tlan Imes, returning. With the parley looming now, how convenient that it was a child that would bridge all these groups and form a grand alliance, barring any difficulties with Calor. And Calor had just been reminded of Brood's power. Hopefully, that would keep him in line. Dujek asked if that's what this was all about. Whiskey Jack said maybe. He demanded a demonstration, didn't he? Krupp manipulates circumstance. Whiskey Jack didn't feel like they were fated to dance for his wills. There is an elder god behind the Daru man, but even so, it seems to be an alliance of mutual benefit, almost a partnership. This was all speculation on Whiskey Jack's part, but if it was a manipulation, he felt it was different this time. He felt compassion behind it. Dujek didn't know what this alliance would make Krupp. A god in disguise? An archmage? Whiskey Jack figured he was simply a mortal man, but gifted with a singular intelligence. If the elder god was suddenly flung back to his realm, would he not seek out his first ally, the greatest of minds? Dujek had a hard time believing this, that this could be Krupp. Whiskey Jack continued saying it was Krupp who gave them the Trigali Trade Guild, the only ones who could resupply them on their march. Krupp who brought the gifts from the first Ribby for the Mhybe to ease her pain. And now it appears Krupp is the only one Silver Fox will talk to with Parangon, and it is Krupp who sets himself in the path of the crippled god. Dujek countered, asking if he is only mortal, how did he survive Brood's wrath? Whiskey Jack said it must have been some intervention, or whatever elder god wouldn't want to see him killed. Dujek said they would ignore the crippled god as best as they could and focus on the Panian Domain, as much as he didn't like that plan. He was nervous in the fact that they are not actively engaged with this new enemy. Whiskey Jack said he didn't think they were. Dujek spoke, asking if it was Quickben. Whiskey Jack nodded and said he thought so, but he wasn't even sure if Quickben was alive. But if he knew Quickben, he knew he was alive. Irritated and anything but ignorant on the situation. Dujek asked if Quickben was all they had to help out with the cripple god. Whiskey Jack said if Krupp was the world's foremost genius, then Quickben was only a short step behind him. Artanthos entered the tent and said a lone Morinth had been spotted. It was Twist. Whiskey Jack said they were about to get some news. Dujek was hoping it was good news. He could use some of that for a change. I don't know what you think, but it is hard to imagine Krupp being like the smartest man in the world, because he doesn't seem to be like a dumbass. He kind of seems to be like aloof, I guess, right? I don't know how to like word that any better, but that's just kind of what I think.
I feel like aloof is a good term. I was actually thinking the same thing. But I think that now that's more the face that he puts on so that people don't catch on to the fact that he's actually really smart. And I mean, just think about the way that he talks too. You know, it's so different than any other character.
It is very different.
Yeah. So the one thing that I get out of this whole section, which I know there's not a lot of like gooey details to really pick out, but it goes back to Whiskey Jack and the manipulation. And instead of it being the normal type of manipulation that they're used to, it's actually seems like it comes from compassion. And if we're kind of putting the pieces together, right? Like the beginning of the section, they talk about how the crippled god is Brood and Rake's problem, essentially, right? Well, it is, right? And I think that what Krupp is doing, or Cruel, is they are manipulating to maybe right or wrong, because it sounds like the chaining of the crippled god did not go the way that it was supposed to. So it almost seems like it's their fault that the crippled god is able to do what he's been able to do. And so now it's about righting the wrong, because everybody's fucked, right? There's the compassion. Yeah. Cruel, even though he has no more followers, right? He really could just say, I don't fucking care. He still cares about mankind and humanity. And so therefore he's trying to make a right that he didn't even get a part in, right? Like Cruel had been forgotten long before the crippled god came into the realm, right? So like, why does he actually care? Well, it could be because, you know, the crippled god is hurting him in doing what he's doing, right? Kind of what's been insinuated with the whole like the blood of my blood is blah, 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 or whatever. So maybe it is self-preservation, but I don't think so. I think he cares more about the fate of humanity than he does anything else at this point. So it kind of, again, draws me back to the manipulation. They're being manipulated by Krupp to purely take on the Panian Domain, while Rake and Brood right or wrong, which kind of has been insinuated, you know, with the whole matron and Kalava and all of that from earlier on in the book, is to right or wrong.
I think I agree a lot with what you said. And I never really thought about it in like that way, but yeah, Krupp does seem to have like his eye out for humanity and everything.
Right. And it's also kind of cool that we get a little bit of kind of an explanation as to Darujistan, right? Like, we knew that was an abysmal failure when we finished the book. We're like, why the fuck did they do all that just to end it up? You know what I mean? Like, I know that we had a lot of questions at the end of the book. Then this kind of swings back where Whiskey Jack's like had time to reflect on those events and be like, yeah, Darujistan was a failure, but I've always kind of felt like there was higher strings pulling and manipulating things. And now he kind of understands that it was likely Krupp.
I guess I kind of always had an inkling that it was. Like, I wasn't really surprised by that.
I'm not either. I always had an inkling that it was Krupp as well. But like from our character's perspective, dawning that realization is really cool for them to just kind of go through the notion, you know?
Yeah.
But it does kind of answer some mysteries that you and I have shared about Krupp. We always knew that there was something more to him, but never really had the pieces to really say why. And now I feel like pieces are starting to show themselves.
For sure.
Yeah, that's all I have to say about that section. So
Yeah, I didn't have any thoughts that I jotted down on that one either. So we can keep going here, I think.
all right. She lay face down on the rocks, breathing in gasps and whimpering. She was too tired to keep running. The tundra in her dreams had revealed new enemies. This time, she was followed by wolves, bigger than any she had seen before. They were in view on a ridge, and the leader caught wind of her, and the chase had begun. At first, her young legs were able to carry her faster than any mortal could have achieved. The wolves had kept pace. She sought to remain on level land, but they forced her upslope, thus tiring her out. The wolves relented, and she began to feel the escape was impossible, and that she was going to die. She could hear them drawing closer. She managed to slightly remain in the lead. She stumbled and cried out, waiting for the pain of their teeth clamping down on her. The wolves circled, getting closer and closer. The hot breath gusted against the back of her neck, and she screamed. She awoke and observed that dusk had arrived. The wagon had stopped and the army was settling in for the night. The wagon creaked and someone crouched beside her. Corlat told her that sleep should not leave her so exhausted. She tells Corlat that it should not, but to leave her to end this herself. The Tist Andi told her that this was not allowed and that Call had made some stew. The Mhybe said that she wasn't hungry and that Corlat's good intentions are killing her. Corlat lifted her effortlessly into a sitting position, and the Mhybe then decides to eat. Corlat tells her that she will sit with her. They talk about the goat used for dinner. Corlat explains that the Mhybe knows this ritual well, and that Corlat has seen and wondered if the arriving spirit will show the goat something beyond the life it had known. The Mhybe calls Corlat a liar, and that the spirit deceives the poor creature. Corlat then fell silent. The Tist Andi continues to say that maybe this deception is a gift. The Mhybe replies and says that dead is dead. As the Bridgeburners would say, the children of the Malazan Empire hold no illusions. Corlat says the Mhybe seems to know a lot about them. The Mhybe explains that 2 Marines visit her occasionally, and they guard her daughter and tell the Mhybe of her daughter's well-being. Corlat explains that she did not know of this. The Mhybe asks if this alarms her, now that her secrets were revealed. Corlat said that the Mhybe's secrets were safe with her. She merely wants to thank these 2 Marines. The Mhybe said to leave them be, but it was because of them that she knew that Krupp visits Silver Fox regularly. He is a strange man to deliver the curse upon her, but endearing to her daughter. Corlat explains that Krupp probably never imagined what rebirthing Tattersail might have meant for the Mhybe. The Mhybe said that this was true, and she understood it well, as Krupp was called upon by an elder god. She goes into details to how this abomination was created, as Kalar had put it. The elder god had thought to save it, but make no mistake, this elder god and Krupp had decided to make use of the child they created. Do Krupp and her child now conspire? Corlat asked why they would. The Mhybe wonders why Corlat hasn't seen it, as it's not that hard to believe. Corlat explains that it seems that the Mhybe thinks that they are all conspiring against her. The Mhybe simply asked if they were, and with all her strength, flung the bowl away. She yells that she is she's fed, she's guarded, and this is not a conspiracy to make sure she doesn't end her own life. Her own daughter doesn't even visit. Corlat put her hand on the Mhybe's shoulder to ease her, and then promised her that she would find out. The Mhybe asked that she had felt something earlier in the day, and asked what it was, and if her daughter was a part of it. Corlat explains that Silver Fox was there, and explains that her daughter had found protectors. But Silver Fox will not extend these protectors to her mother. She believes that you, the Mhybe, are in danger. After a thought to herself about how she is a danger to herself, she asks who these protectors are. Corlat drew a deep breath and in empathy explains that Silver Fox didn't want her to say anything, but she realizes that keeping this info was wrong to the Mhybe. Her daughter's protectors were ancient, large wolves. Terror stole through the Mhybe. Snarling, she scratched Corlat's face. She said that her daughter wants to kill her, as these wolves were her hunters. She thought that her own daughter was plaguing her dreams. Call and Murillo had leapt onto the wagon. Even as Corlat told them to stand down, to the Mhybe, she ceased to hear them or see them. She continued thrashing, clawing at the air, betrayal searing through her. She has thoughts of Silver Fox holding a knife in her hands, and her gaze was cold intent.
Well, what you got?
All right. Well, so this whole section is just incredibly dark. And the Mhybe has this dark thoughts about like, oh, your good intentions are killing me. Well, actually, no, they're not, because that would be great. It's just this like, oh my God, woman. And I feel like we've talked quite extensively about the Mhybe and just her reasons for doing so. And I get it. But it almost seems kind of contradictory. Like she wants to die, but like in her dream, these wolves are pretty much almost upon her, and she screams like she's afraid to die, but yet she wants to die. So it's kind of just this like, well, which is it?
Yeah.
Another thing that I thought was cool, and it kind of ties into the end of the section when she's talking about Silver Fox and the knife and the cold intent. When they're talking about the goat being sacrificed to be used for dinner, they talk about the pleading in the goat's eyes and the whimpering screams of the goat. And was there any sympathy from the butcher or the slaughterer? No, they just kill him. And the Mhybe kind of has this question like, well, did the slayer of the goat pause at the pleading of the animal's eyes? No. The answer is no. He just slaughtered him, right? She is comparing herself to that goat. Like, just kill me. You know what I mean? But then at the end, she uses those same analogies. She's just like, I am whimpering. My eyes are pleading, but yet my daughter stares at me with a knife in her hand with cold intent. Like she in her mind has compared the slayer of the goat to Silver Fox, and the goat is her, which I thought was just really abstract.
I like how you made that connection. I definitely didn't, but it totally makes sense. But I think, and then I think about like the butcher and Silver Fox. Being a butcher would be a hard job because I don't think I could just I hunt, I hunt ducks. I don't want to like kill something just to kill it unless I got to protect myself. If I'm going to kill it, my intent is to eat it personally. So like, I don't know how like a butcher gets in the head, that the headspace that they're, I guess, providing a good service. Because especially with like a big animal, like even a goat, those things like look at you, and I don't know that I could just slit its throat. Like that would be, and I suppose after you do it enough, it's probably not a big deal, but it seems like Silver Fox kind of has that hesitation, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I want to put her out of her misery, but can I bring myself to do it? I don't know, it's kind of rambly, but
no, it makes sense though. So like at the beginning of the episode, we were talking about, how it seems that there are things throughout this chapter that suggest that Silver Fox wants to save her, but there are also things that suggest that Silver Fox could potentially be causing her mother's demise. If Krupp is influencing the Mhybe's dreams in some way, shape, or form, I would imagine that he is the one who is giving her these dreams of being chased by the Talan Eye, right? So why would he be doing that? It seems to cause the Mhybe's destruction, which is maybe what Silver Fox had asked to do. I don't know. But at the end of the day, why would at the beginning of the chapter Silver Fox say that these are my protectors and then ask for Corlot's Tist-Andi to guard her mother? And then Corlot's like, hey, no, you have protectors. Why can't you do it? And she's like, well, my mother will scare the Talan Eye away, right?
Which I kind of wonder how she would do that.
My guess is it has something to do with these Rivi memories. But again, if Krupp and Silver Fox are so chatty with each other, I'm sure that he would know this information as well. So why would he influence the Mhybe's dreams? Unless he's not influencing, he's just watching. Hoping for the Mhybe to make some connection. But watching and influencing are completely different things, right? Like,
Oh, for
it's no
sure. Yeah, way
control,
different.
but it kind of sounds like they are scheming to help protect her mom, that's a stance that I truly think. I think that they're trying to make her see some type of revelation.
You think by the time she realizes it'll be too late
I don't know.
if she realizes it?
That's also what I'm wondering about is being that Corlott has revealed what Silver Fox didn't want her mom to know. What do those consequences look like?
I don't know.
Do they not have the Talan Eye as escorts anymore? Like, are the Talan Eye supposed to give the Mhybe the realization, and now that she knows, she can avoid them or make them go away and stand up to them? I don't know. Maybe she's supposed to give in to death in her dreams, and that's what'll set her free. Because maybe they will show her what life is like afterwards. I don't know. Me just spitballing and rambling. So
Hey, sometimes that's what we do.
absolutely. But yeah, I don't have anything else for this section. Those were kind of the two big things that I pointed out. And again, it's just this funnel of despair for the Mhybe. And I can't help but feel this so bad for her. Because I understand.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
That's all I was gonna say is I understand where she's coming from. I get it. I would absolutely be heartbroken if my kids, when they grow up, don't want anything to do with me. You know, like it's a very real fear that I have as a parent. Like, did I do enough as a father to make them want to have a relationship with me after they become an adult?
I don't think you've got anything to worry about.
I know, but it's still something I fear because
Sure.
there are other factors.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I can understand why, that's a thought. I think a lot of parents have that, so I get it.
But yeah, I'm ready to move on if you are.
All right. Yeah. I think we're not moving along too bad here.
No?
All right. Whiskey Jack wiped the grin off his face when he saw Corlat and the look on her face, and the fork cuts that blood dripped from on her cheek. He asked Corlat what happened. She told her lover that whatever secrets she had withheld from her now needed to come to light. But be they about Tattersail Reborn, or those gods damned Talan Eye, or what he instructed those two Marines guarding the child to say to the Mhybe. Whiskey Jack said he had given them no instructions, not even to guard Silver Fox. Whatever they have done has been on their own will. Whatever was said, he would take responsibility for, as he was their commander, and if punishment was required, Corlat cut him off. She asked him to stop as something trembled within her. Whiskey Jack thought to take her in her arms. He could see she needed comfort, but could also sense she was not yet ready to receive it. She asked why Silver Fox didn't want her mother to know about the eye. Whiskey Jack did not know, and in fact he thought that Corlat knew. She was surprised that he thought she was keeping a secret from him. She asked if he was ever going to confront her about it. Whiskey Jack said no. She told him to clean her wounds. He stepped closer and began to gently clean the cuts and asked who had struck her. Corlat said it was the Mhybe, and she thinks she made a mistake despite having good intentions. Whiskey Jack said that's usually how it worked out with good intentions. Corlat looked at him and called him a pragmatic Malazan. She wondered why Brood, Rake, Calor, and even herself only see them as soldiers, a sword they hope they can wield when the need arises, though they are now all fools for not realizing how things now stand. Whiskey Jack asked what she meant. Corlat said they have become the backbone. Somehow, they are what gives them strength, and she knew he had secrets. Whiskey Jack told her not as many as she thought, though. The biggest was that they felt outmatched by her, Rake, Caladan Brood, Calor, by the Teist Andy army, the Rivi, and the Barghest as well. They didn't have the same power. They were just an army. Even their mage wasn't ranked. He was only a squad mage, and currently was far away, probably feeling like a fly snared in a spider web. They knew once the battle comes, they were the spearhead, and it would cost them dearly. And as for the seer, whatever's hiding behind him, they hoped Corlat and her company take care of that. Same for the crippled god. They're only soldiers, tired ones at that. If they were this combined army's backbone, then it was a brittle one. Corlat did not agree. Whiskey Jack said he wasn't being modest, and that he spoke the truth, though he wasn't sure she was ready to hear it. Corlat was silent a moment and then said Silver Fox was manipulating her mother and possibly responsible for her nightmares. Whiskey Jack found this hard to believe. Corlett said it didn't sound like something Tattersall would do. Well, how about Nightchill or Bellerton? He knew them better than anyone else. Was it possible it was one or both of them? Whiskey Jack didn't answer. He said the cuts would require a healer, else they may become infected. He sighed and continued, saying it's possible Nightchill might harbor feelings of betrayal, or targets could be random. Same for Bellerton, as they were both betrayed. If this is what is happening, Whiskey Jack thought that Tattersall would be trying to resist them. Corlett asked what if she already lost the struggle. Whiskey Jack said he had seen no signs of that. Corlett corrected him, saying his Marines had not pointed it out. He said they were volunteers and chose to protect Silver Fox because they see Tattersall in her, not just physically, but in her personality. And if they detected anything otherwise, it would be reported. Corlett let out a sigh and said she had come here to tear his head off his shoulders. Damn him! How did she come to deserve him? And after all her accusations, why the hell was he still here? Whiskey Jack said a few hours ago, Dujek did the same thing. Apparently it was just that type of day, and they should get a healer. Corlett said in a moment, and told Whiskey Jack he was a rare man. He said of course he was rare. There was only one of him, and they needed that healer. He was a simple man with simple needs, and they were wasting time. I think Whiskey Jack's got a corner.
Whiskey Jack is the shit, right? Like, he's just so logical, you know? I mean, and I know that they talk about Nightchill and Bellerton potentially influencing Silver Fox's actions, but I think that Whiskey Jack is realizing that, like, no, evidence points against it. But these are also the things within this chapter that make me think that there is ill intent for the Mhybe from her daughter's perspective. You know, like, I could totally see that. Nightchill, maybe like Tattersall had a moment of losing concern, or like,
so it's
yeah.
The ill intent is not necessarily from Tattersall, but maybe from like Tattersall losing some control, maybe
Right.
Momentarily.
Correct. Yeah.
Gotcha. Because I was kind of thinking, well, what would Tattersall's motivation be in that case? But yeah, if she loses control, that makes more sense.
So yeah. I don't know. I'm starting to really enjoy Whiskey Jack's moments of just wit, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Where he's like, yeah, I'm rare. There's only one of me. That was pretty good.
Yeah. Definitely a dad joke.
For sure. Does he have kids? Do we know? Maybe he's got some out there that he doesn't even know about. I don't know.
Maybe. I don't think it's ever mentioned. No.
I was, reading through this where Whiskey Jack, admits that the biggest secret, I guess, is that they feel like they're insufficient, right? They're outmatched by her, by Rake, Caladan, Calor, the Tice-Andi army, all these other groups. We just get the sense that the Bridge Burners are just kind of this ragtag group of soldiers. Yeah, they're determined and everything, but what do you do against an ascendant or a god? Like, you don't have a chance, really. But I think it takes a lot of guts to admit that you're not really as big of a badass as your reputation kind of indicates, or it might precede you. Like, oh, somebody hears about the Bridge Burners, like, oh, those guys are like badass, you don't want to fuck with them. And really they're just a bunch of scared soldiers, just like anybody else. I think that takes some courage to own up to that.
Oh, right. Yeah. But this also relates to Whiskey Jack and Dujek's conversation a little bit, where they're talking about like, how do we face against the crippled god? Well, no, we can't. It's actually, it's Brood and Rake's problem. Right. And I think what he's trying to express to Corlett is that like, hey, we're here. We'll take on the Panion, but we literally can't do anything else. Like
right.
the rest is up to you guys, like, because you're more sufficient for that task than we are.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like they got fucking Moonspawn, and I mean, who knows what Calor is responsible. Brood's got his hammer. Like, yeah, they're definitely way better equipped.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, again, not a lot of thoughts. I mean, it's just, I wouldn't say confrontational, but it's an interaction, and everybody seems to be raging, right? And Whiskey Jack is kind of that calmness that eases everyone's tension,
Yeah, you're exactly right. Like, it was like Corlett came in wanting a confrontation. Like, she wanted to, just tear him a new asshole, and he just was calm about everything and was just matter of fact and kind of diffused the situation.
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly. And I think that he, in able to do that, was able to kind of get Corlot on the same page again. Like, hey, like, we need you guys to focus your attention on the crippled god, and we'll focus our attention on the Panion.
Right.
We'll collaborate about the two.
You want to take your next section? Is this your last section or no?
No, this is my second to last.
Oh, you have the last section, don't you?
Yep. So,
Gotcha.
waving his arms, Krupp made his way down the main avenue towards the supply wagons. In each hand, he had a nathy black cake. Following behind was his mule. As he reached the edge of the wagons, he noted two Malazan Marines sitting before a fire. He approached the two women and explained that they are due for some sweetness. They call him fat and make a comment about his mule lurking in the shadows. He shoved the dripping cakes forward. They banter a bit between each other, and Krupp makes a comment about them guarding Silver Fox, and how Tattersail heart was shining through the child now woman. They tell Krupp that they have seen enough, and they are certain Silver Fox is Tattersail. They ask if they are getting the cakes or not. They then ask him to join them. The sisters share a story about the Nathy black cakes. Krupp turns his conversation back on Silver Fox and how it was courageous of them to protect the Rivy lass. They stick to their claim that she isn't Rivy, but Tattersail indeed. Krupp blinked and then said that it was a huge responsibility to be the eyes for Whiskey Jack. They both stop eating and say that Whiskey Jack doesn't need them to see for him. Krupp explains that the commander nonetheless must be comforted by the gesture. Krupp baits them into talking more about Whiskey Jack, and they claim that Whiskey Jack should have been emperor when Kellenved got knocked off. That's why Lucene had stripped him of rank and sent him far away. He would have made a great emperor. Krupp continues to Krupp his way into getting them to explain more. They explain that the Malazan Empire would have been far different if Whiskey Jack had taken the throne. They continue to converse about how Whiskey Jack should have given Lucene the boot. Krupp eggs them on some more and asks why Whiskey Jack didn't do that at that time. The two soldiers explain that it was because Whiskey Jack was a soldier, and because he knew there would be people stabbing and jumping for the throne. He simply stood there and saluted and said, "Yes, Empress." After that, things then settled down, and as he was giving Lucene a chance. Krupp asks if Whiskey Jack made a mistake back then. The pair shrugged and said that it wouldn't matter because they're here. Krupp rises and thanks them for the convo. As he disappeared into the gloom, the two soldiers were silent for a time. One of them sighs and the other follows suit. One said that it was too damn easy, as Krupp was expecting to find two brains and barely got one. Still, they think they have spoken too much. They speculate on what Krupp and Tattersail talk about. The other said the old woman. They both figured as much, though, and they both thought something was in the works. So I thought this was a really interesting section. Like, Krupp is obviously trying to get some information out of these two. I don't know if he quite accomplished his goal or not, because they seem to be playing dumb with him. And it's really evident throughout the section, much more beautiful than I summarized. But yeah, there was a lot of like misdirection in both of their conversations and words to each other.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun reading because it was like they were just trying to confuse each other and outdo the other one.
Right.
It was, I don't know, it was fun to read. Definitely kind of a change of pace, just to have a little like comedy where a lot of this chapter, as you said earlier, has been pretty dark.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and I think that Krupp's main goal here is to try to get a sense on who is at the forefront and if it is Tattersail. But I feel like Krupp already knows that. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like Krupp is probably the only one who knows Tattersail really, really well.
Well, maybe as she is now, but I mean, I think Whiskey Jack, I mean, he knows her pretty well too.
Yeah. I'm not exactly sure what he came there for. Obviously, he wanted some type of information, and I don't know if he succeeded or not.
It's kind of hard to tell.
Yeah, because I don't think he really wanted that conversation about Whiskey Jack, but that seems to be the conversation he got. I think he was expecting these two to talk more about Silver Fox and her character, because these two are the one that visit her most next to him, right?
Yeah.
But also they talk to the Mhybe as well. So I think that maybe he was trying to get information about the Mhybe from these two. Maybe that was his goal, not necessarily Tattersail. but hoping that the Tattersail / Silver Fox conversation would lead them to the Mhybe, to talk about the Mhybe.
Right. Yeah, it obviously didn't quite pan out that way.
What do you think about Whiskey Jack taking the throne? I feel like that's new information for us.
Yeah, I mean, I think it definitely would have been different. Maybe the world wouldn't be in the mess that it is now if he was the emperor.
Right. But also,
But somebody could have came after him too and killed him, and maybe things would be worse at the same time.
right. But it also kind of brings me back to the end of Dead House Gates when Kalam confronts Lucine, right? And she says that she never wanted to kill the bridge burners. But I feel like this contradicts that because she sent him far away and demoted him.
Right.
If Whiskey Jack is Lucine's greatest rival, I would take him out too.
Well, I mean, that'd be the smart thing to do, right?
Right. So, but yeah, those are my only thoughts. Definitely lots of good humor, lots of witty banter, name calling. Yeah, it was pretty funny. But I think.
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say. I think my favorite part was when they're like, "Do we get to eat the cakes or your hands?"
Right. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. One of them pulls out a knife.
Yeah, like we'll just cut them off quick. We'll be good to go. Yeah.
And then Krupp's just, and when they ask if they can have the cakes now, Krupp is like, I don't know. You still got that knife in your hand. Like, I'm not sure I can give them to you now.
Yeah. Well, you want me to take my last section here?
Take her away.
How long we been going here?
A couple hours. Didn't we start a little after 1?
I don't even remember. Things have gone pretty fast. I don't think it'd been that long, but I wasn't sure. I remember exactly what time we started.
1:17, I think, is when you said, okay, getting fired up.
Okay, so yeah, we're probably about 2 hours in. All right, well, I'll wrap up my part here. Krupp approached another fire within the ring fort of wagons. Murillo asked what was up with his hands, and Krupp said anything he touched stuck to them. Call said they had known that for years. Murillo asked what was up with his mule. Krupp said the damn thing haunted him in truth, and he had an interesting exchange with 2 Marines. Silver Fox was in good hands. Murillo asked if they were as sticky as his hands. Krupp said they were now. Call said they were all fine. Said that was all fine and dandy, but how did any of that help them? They had an old woman sleeping in the wagon with a broken heart, and that's the least of her pain. It's bad enough to break the strongest man, let alone a frail ancient woman. Krupp replied that matters of mercy were well in hand and that appearances at the moment should not be a concern. Call wanted to know why they didn't just tell her that. Krupp said she was not ready for that truth. It was a journey of the spirit. She must begin it within herself. Krupp and Silver Fox can only do so much despite their appearance of omnipotence. Call said yesterday he would laugh at that claim, but now, since he stood up to Caladan Brood, how did he manage to do that? Krupp told Call that his lack of faith crushed him to his very toes. Murillo told Krupp to keep his sandals on because he had worn them as long as he had known him. Nobody wanted to see his feet. Krupp answered Call's question on survival against Brood, saying rage had no effect on one such as himself, for whom the world is a pearl nestled within the slimy confines of his honed and muscled brain. He decided that this comparison did not work for his intent, and that it was late and he was tired. He walked away and the mule followed. Cole and Murillo watched him walk away. Cole said he wished that Brood's hammer would have connected with Krupp's head. Murillo said it probably would have slipped and that all their talk of toes and brain and muscles was going to make him sick.
So this is kind of where like everything that I have been kind of between in this chapter and the previous sections kind of comes to a head a little bit. Like this is where I think that there is no ill intent on Krupp and Silver Fox's part. I think that this is where, as he says, the Mhybe's not ready for the truth, and it's more a journey of her spirit.
Yeah. So that makes me wonder, though, because we know Calor wants a shot. Well, I guess that's for Silver Fox, not for the Mhybe. I don't know. I'm wondering what kind of plan he's got up his sleeve here for her. Because to be quite honest, I'm surprised she's made it this far, the Mhybe. I can't imagine she's got a lot of time left.
Well, I think that her time has expired, and Krupp and Silver Fox are the reason behind that. Even though she's still alive, it kind of seems stupid of me to say her time has expired. But like I said earlier, I think that she was supposed to die. I think that her dream of the abyss was her dying in her sleep, was supposed to be her dying in her sleep.
She kind of got robbed of that.
Right. And since then, I don't know about you, but she seems to be way more bitter than she was before that.
I think, I mean, it's kind of like I said before. I mean, myself, I feel like it kind of goes in waves. It's just erratic.
Right.
Kind of depends on the day. And yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. So I think that these dreams that Krupp is influencing, I don't think he's watching, I think he's influencing. And I think that he's partnering with Silver Fox to help influence these dreams. What exactly the Talan I mean, I don't know, because it seems really weird that she doesn't want her mother to find out about him, but at the same time, she's using them to scare the shit out of her. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and Krupp even says that, like, despite the way that it looks, like, just trust our due diligence. You know, trust what we're doing is essentially what he's saying.
Right.
And like even Krupp goes on to say that like Brood's rage has no effect on anyone such as himself because he is the world is a pearl nestled within the slimy confines of his brain, right? He's talking about his intelligence, kind of going back to earlier on in the chapter. Like it is because of his intelligence that Brood's rage has no effect on because he knows better. He used that rage because of his plan, because of what he and Karul probably thought of.
I don't think I've got anything to add.
I did think it was really funny how they were like, hey, yo, don't take off your sandals. We've all seen your feet. You know,
They're fucking gross.
Right. And I think Krupp even makes a comment about like, yeah, or one of them makes a comment about like, no, we would not like to see what's between those toes, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Gross. Well, should we finish this off here? I didn't really have much to go off on that section anyways, but I
Yeah.
you had some good thoughts there that were good points, and I think we can probably close this out here.
Sweet, man. All right, last section. High above the camp, Crone wheeled and then flew down to the warlord's tent. Even though she was exhausted, she was very curious. She could see that the fissure to the north still bled Burns' blood. Crone had felt that detonation while she was still over the Vision Mountains. She knew that it was Brood's anger, even from that distance. She could even recognize the foulness that emanated from the sleeping goddess's blood. She landed before the warlord's tent and could see there were no lights on. As she entered, Brood told her not to speak a word. He told her to make her report. She tells him that Rake has succeeded in getting Moonspawn into the lands of the Panian Seer. It now hides. He asked if she was able to fly towards Capistan. Crone said that she was able to and tells Brood that the city still will not hold. She tells Brood that there was an unusual detail and that the Seer has unleashed walls of ice against an unknown enemy. Brood figures out that it's Omatos Falak, the Warren of the Jaghut. Crone commented that Brood seemed awfully chill about this. Brood replies and says that he's not surprised about the Jaghut, but actually about the war to the south. He and Rake had suspicions about the Seer. Crone snapped and said that if she had known of these suspicions, she could have paid more attention when she was over Outlook. Brood says that they had no proof, and they value Crone too much to let her get that close. He asked if the Seer remained in Outlook. Crone explains that her kin were unable to tell, as there were condors, and they don't like the Great Raven's presence. Brood asked why they were so much trouble. Crone explains that these birds were more lizard than bird. Brood speculates that these were the Seer's own eyes. Crone said that it was possible and that they could be troublesome. Crone then asked if there was any meat left as she was hungry. Brood told her that she could eat from the refuse pits. Crone gets all in a tizzy at this, but then makes her way to the refuse pits. She makes a comment that Brood should look at her as an example of the future. Brood is confused and asks her to elaborate. Crone asks Brood if she lost her temper. Angry, Brood steps towards her, and the Great Raven squawked and then fled. So, a couple of things here. I thought that it was kind of cool how Crone's talking about the foulness that emanated from the sleeping goddess's blood, and because she's essentially a part of the crippled god. And Crone also insinuates that his poison was her quote unquote mother's milk for herself and all of her kin. And I just thought that was kind of crazy.
Yeah.
So I feel like Crone has a bigger role than what we're led to believe when it comes to the crippled god.
I think she's going to play some sort of role. I don't know exactly what it's going to be, but it's going to be something.
Yeah, and this war to the south that Brood is so concerned about, that's Lady Envy.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
Yeah, but is he concerned because there's a war to the south that wasn't there before, or does he speculate that it's potentially Lady Envy? Like, does he somehow know that it's her? I mean, we don't get any information as to whether he thinks that or not. You know, it kind of seems like, again, going back to the original chaining, is that Lady Envy was supposed to be there and for some reason didn't, thus causing another consequence. So going back to Dujek and Whiskey's conversation, like it's up to these ascendants to take care of it, you know? So I think Cruel at this point is simply saying, hey, you need to make this right. And I'm manipulating through Krupp, essentially, for lack of a better words, as to how he actually said it, to get Brood and Rake to help. So like the parlay, everything that we've seen so far is really just a manipulation by Cruel to maybe right the wrong.
What do you suppose happens if the wrong is righted? I feel like that was a weird sentence, but
Well, I feel like that's not going to happen until the end of the series.
okay, sure.
Yeah.
Fair. We got some time then.
Yes. Also, when Crone is talking about the condors, right? Kind of insinuating that these are like reptilian birds, like pteranodons or pterodactyls or, you know, something like that. So now there's another element to the Khajain Shamal that we haven't seen before. So I wonder how they'll play a part.
I didn't even think of that.
Right? Because
Yeah, I
I
don't
mean, in the first section they talk about the matron breeding for specific talents, right? So
Yeah.
so I'm sure that there's probably more of the Khajain Shamal that we'll see.
Oh, I think we're going to get a lot of them as we go
Yeah.
here.
I wonder when the Fork Rule of Sail will come into play, because they're the only like elder race that we haven't gotten yet. We've heard them mentioned and talked about briefly, but nowhere near transparent as the other three.
Yeah, I don't know if it would make sense to introduce them now, halfway through this book, unless something drastically changes, but it wouldn't seem to like be a fitting time.
Oh, for sure. I'm just saying that, in the first book, the Talani Mass and the Jaghut were kind of introduced. And now in this book, the Khajain Shamal are introduced. So I'm wondering if in a later book, the Fork Rule of Sail will kind of come into play in some way, shape, or form. I don't know where they fit in the timeline. Did they come before the Khajain Shamal? Are they the short tails? I mean,
I don't
possible.
think that, but time will tell. We'll have to read on and find out.
There it is.
Right at the end. I was saving it.
So, what do you got as far as predictions? Where do you think this next chapter is going to take us?
I don't know. I think we'll probably get back to Capistan for at least part of the chapter. I don't know. I don't think it's a very long chapter. I think it's a shorter one again.
It's about 25 pages. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think, if we get back to the city, we'll find people in the tunnels and shit, and it's going to be like guerrilla warfare. But I don't know what's going to happen because I just don't see a way that the city holds out, just fighting street by street, basically, in a delayed tactical retreat. I don't know how they don't get overrun. You can lay whatever traps you want. To me, I don't think it matters. The Doman's got so many guys, I don't think it matters. Their numbers are gonna overwhelm you eventually. You might put a dent in them, but in the end, it's not gonna matter. But something's gonna happen I don't know how or what, but something will happen, I think, to maybe the city's basically destroyed, but save the people within it, whoever's left.
Well, yeah, I would agree. I think that whether it's this next chapter or not, I think that the Capistan will get overrun and it will be the Panions just trying to find the last 10% of people, but I think it's going to be a challenge for them given their numbers. I think the Thrall having this protective sorcery over them, people will probably be hiding out and they will probably focus their efforts onto getting in. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it would be cool to see Gnos and Quick Ben and and the Barghast, like what's to come of them. Talk even. I mean, I haven't seen him in 3 chapters. So
Yeah,
we'll
it's
kind of
been
get
a bit.
back to him and, is he dead? Is he alive? What's going on? How's he going with that mother's embrace?
Yeah, there's a lot of questions around him
Yeah.
to see how things get
Lady Envy
resolved.
and Mock and Tool, like, are they getting closer to Outlook? Yeah. I guess we'll have to see what happens. I left my book at work, so maybe I'll whip out the hardcover and read that, but I don't like to take it off the shelf unless I absolutely have to.
Is it the same cover, or do you have one of the other covers for the
I'll show
hardcover?
you. It's the one with Gruntle on the front. We were talking about it with.
Oh, you do have that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's got to be Gruntle, and then that's
Tony.
Stony behind. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you just took the cover off the book.
Yeah. And, it's apparent now because there's like tiger stripes all over him that this is likely Treach.
I like that cover.
Yeah. It is pretty badass.
I know there's another one with like it looks like what the fuck are they? Like minotaurs like storming what I would assume to be Capistan. I don't know if you've seen that one. It's like fucking like cowhead things.
I don't know if I've seen that one. Maybe I'll look into it. So
Yeah, I'm sure if you just Google like Memories of Ice book covers, you probably find it.
yeah. All right, man. Well, it's another good episode.
Yeah, it's been a while since we've got to read on this book, so I'm looking forward to that, and I might read it here pretty quick. So the wife's off with my stepdaughter doing dance pictures, and my kid's just hanging out here, and so I'll probably just read for a bit.
All right, man. Sounds good. Well,
Cool.
let me know what you
Well,
think when you do.
Will do. Glad we got to do this. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, and I enjoy listening to you. And like I said at the beginning, it doesn't matter how long it's been. It always feels good to talk to you. I think that's a sign of a good friendship. So
I would agree. It is always good to talk to you as well.
yeah.
So
I'll let you know what I think. I'll probably knock this out here in 40 minutes or whatever it takes me to read it, and I'll let you know what I think.
awesome. Sounds good, dude.
All right. Take it easy, man.
Later.
Until next time. We'll see you soon.
Yes. Bye.
Bye.
DMJ's Epic Quest. 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 DMJ's Epic Quest.